Tonight, crisis hits African Democratic Congress Party, suspend its presidential candidate Dumebi Kachikwu over alleged anti-party actions. ADC flag bearer says the party chairman has no power to suspend him. APC and PDP presidential candidates hold strategic meetings with party stakeholders in Abuja as Labour Party members take to the streets of the Ogun State capital to drum up support for their presidential candidate, Peter Obi. Former President Goodluck Jonathan challenges citizens to take charge of their future, denounces politicization of ethnicity in the country. And thousands pay their last respects to former Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, who brought the Cold War to an end.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's foreign exchange reserve sustains uptrend for the third consecutive week.
And on sports news tonight, Super Eagles Team B will not be in Algeria for the 2023 African Nations Championship after losing to Ghana 5-4 in penalties in the final playoffs.
As political parties step up preparations for the 2023 general elections, things appear to be falling apart in the African Democratic Congress, ADC, which has announced the suspension of its presidential candidate. The party is accusing Mr. Dumebi Kachikwu of making what it describes as a false, misguided and defamatory video, among other infractions. In a statement purportedly issued by the party's deputy national chairman, Dr. Bamidele Ajadi, but which was not signed, the party explains that the decision was taken after an emergency National Working Committee meeting on Friday, September the 2nd. Meanwhile, the Forum of State Chairmen of the party, as well as the presidential candidate, have already dismissed the suspension, saying the national chairman of the party, Mr. Ralph Mosu, and the NWC have no power to do so. Our correspondent, Dele Omoyeni, has the details.
On Friday, the 2nd of September 2022, rumors made the rounds that the presidential candidate of the Action Democratic Congress, ADC, had been suspended by the National Working Committee of the party. And indeed, not long after, a press statement was released to that effect, even though it was not signed by anyone. 24 hours later, the presidential candidate of the party addresses a press conference dismissing the exercise.
The tenure of the immediate past NWC expired or elapsed on the 28th of last month, which was last Sunday. Prior to this, the former chairman, Chief Ralph Mosu, had sought an extension or an elongation of his tenure. He had reached me directly and indirectly pleading for us to extend his tenure. For those of you who might not know, Chief Ralph Mosu happens to be the longest serving chairman of a political party in the history of Nigeria, having held sway as the chairman of ADC for the last 17 years. You must understand that this is contrary to the provisions of the Constitution of ADC, which stipulates that a chairman can only hold office for 2 terms, maximum of 2 terms of 4 years each. For some reason, and for reasons best known to INEC, we don't know how Mosu was able to hold on to that position for the last 17 years.
In the same vein, the Forum of ADC state chairmen across the 36 states of the Federation carpets the chairman of the party for further running foul of the party's constitution in an attempt to extend his tenure.
Now, the question is, does the ADC constitution allow NEC, or did the ADC constitution provide that NEC has such power to extend the tenure of the NWC? The answer is no. The only body that has such power to vote in or extend the tenure of the NWC is via a national convention.
Nevertheless, it's yet to be known if either of the warring parties will approach the courts to seek redress or further interpretations of the constitution of the party. Dele Omoyeni, Channels Television News.
Members of the Labour Party under the aegis of Coalition for Peter Obi presidency have held a 1 million man walk for its presidential candidate Peter Obi and his running mate Yusuf Baba Ahmed in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. The walk, which took off from the popular Kutwa market, saw members march through major streets of the state capital. They appealed to party supporters to get ready to move with the flow as activities gather momentum ahead of next year's elections.
By all credentials on the table, our parents sent us to school for a reason. If you don't have a certificate, then they won't employ you in the banks. You need to present some of these things. And when you are running for office, we need to put our best hands forward. Check the leading aspirants on the table. Who is the most qualified out of them? Let us not deceive ourselves. Who is the most qualified? Honestly, is our leader, our candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, and we are here in solidarity to let them know that yes, we support him. We are going to rally around our state and let them know that we are here as one youth, and we are moving forward. By God's grace, Nigeria will not be where it is right now. It's going to move forward by God's special grace. Through our leadership, Mr. Peter Obi. We are just out to let the people know that yes, we are in town. They said no structure this, no structure that. Look at this. What does this tell us? This is just the beginning. Campaign has not started. When it starts, you will see all youths in motion.
Meanwhile, state lawmakers from the north under the ruling All Progressives Congress APC say they have begun organizing a door-to-door campaign to help the party retain power at the center in 2023. The initiative, which is sponsored by speakers of the APC-controlled state in the north, aims at reaching out and mobilizing grassroots support for the party's presidential candidate once the embargo on campaigns is lifted. They made this known at a meeting with the APC presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his running mate Kashim Shettima in Abuja.
The presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC, Senator Bola Tinubu, arrives at the venue of the APC Northern Speakers Conference in Abuja. It is a gathering of state lawmakers who are here to set the machinery to mobilize grassroots support for the party's presidential candidate and his running mate.
The speakers of the states have been appointed as special coordinators for all the states. So this is a task that must be done. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Shettima Kashim must win.
This is the main engine here, sir. The members of the State Assembly, they are always together with their people. I can guarantee you, with these people around here, we can deliver, you can get 60 to 70% of the total vote.
Ahead of the campaigns later this month, the Director General of the APC Campaign Council is asking the party's leadership to reconcile all aggrieved members before the campaigns start.
As we look forward to commencing formal campaigns, whenever INEC opens up the platform, we have to close ranks and resolve all pending issues across our states, so as to avoid distraction that could be exploited by our opponents.
The emergence of Bola Tinubu as the presidential flag bearer and the choice of Shettima as his running mate has generated several reactions within and outside the party. But neither the candidate nor his running mate is worried about the controversies.
The determination that we are not just the one to hold abuses and insults at our rival party. Why? We don't need it. We are smarter. We are brilliant. We are courageous. We are not like them. Why do we have to worry about them? But just wait for the calendar, the day of the voting.
This gentleman trusted us. He invested his resources, his time, and his goodwill in bringing forth the presidency of this country to northern Nigeria. And this is payback time.
Campaigns for the presidential and National Assembly elections will officially commence on September 28 this year. But ahead of that kickoff, the APC lawmakers in states controlled by the party are not leaving any stone unturned.
Staying with politics, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has met with the governorship candidates of the party from across the country in Abuja. The meeting, which took place behind closed doors at the Asokoro residence of the former vice president, also had his running mate, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State, in attendance. It ended after more than 1 hour, but the PDP presidential candidate will not grant an interview to the press. However, the chairman of the PDP Governorship Candidates Forum and the party's candidate in Kaduna State, Isa Ashiru, said they gathered to discuss as a family. On the call by the River State Governor for the resignation of the PDP National Chairman, Iyorchia Ayu, he said it has to follow due process.
We are here to congratulate ourselves and wish all of us well for the 2023 general elections. That's why we're here. Issues on elections are not made public. And that's why I said you should excuse us. And we discussed extensively, openly, and genuinely for the purpose of seeing the party through the 2023 general elections. PDP is the only way. And by the special grace of God, we'll get there.
Okay. So they're calling for the resignation of your party chairman. What is the thought of the governorship candidates on this?
We have a constitution that governs the affairs of the party. So for anybody to say one should go, we have to follow due process.
Well, over to Katsina State, where at least 16 persons, mostly women and children, are said to have been abducted after bandits invaded Garindan Alaju community in Batsari local government area of the state. Now, residents there told Channels Television that the attackers stormed the community on motorcycles at about 10 p.m. yesterday. According to the eyewitnesses, the gunmen, whose faces were covered, started shooting sporadically to scare away possible intruders. They say a team of security personnel to douse tensions were sent after receiving distress calls from the community. In part two, after the break, Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo meets with his U.S. counterpart Kamala Harris in the White House. Both leaders discuss climate change and Nigeria's energy transition plan, among other bilateral matters. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television in Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Crisis hits African Democratic Congress. Party suspends its presidential candidate, Dumebi Kachiku, over alleged anti-party actions. ADC flag bearer says the party chairman has no power to suspend him. APC and PDP presidential candidates hold strategic meetings with party stakeholders in Abuja as Labour Party members take to the streets of the Ogun State capital to drum up support for their candidate, Peter Obi. Former President Goodluck Jonathan challenges citizens to take charge of their future, denounces politicization of ethnicity in the country, and thousands pay their last respects to former Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, who brought the Cold War to an end. As the nation gets set to choose its next set of leaders next year, former President Dr. Goodluck Jonathan is challenging the citizens, especially the youth, to take charge of their future by electing those who believe in the unity of the country. Dr. Jonathan says there has been over-politicization of ethnicity, which is detrimental to the growth and development of the country. He was speaking in Owerri, the Imo State capital, during a colloquium to celebrate the 80th birthday of elder statesman and former PDP BOT member Chief Emmanuel Nwayawu.
Remember the goodness of God and all the mercies.
It's a public lecture and colloquium to celebrate the 80th birthday of elder statesman and Imo-born politician Emmanuel Nwayawu. The event, tagged Igbo Quest for Nigeria's Unity, brings together eminent Nigerians from all parts of the country. Former President Goodluck Jonathan is the chairman of the occasion, and his speech focuses on the need for Nigerians to de-emphasize issues of ethnicity and religion, especially as the 2023 general elections draw closer.
My appeal to all Nigerians is to de-emphasize our differences and focus on the issues that bind us as the people. Luckily, we're in an election cycle. So my challenge to the young people, because the youth are more, is to take charge of their future by electing those who believe in our unity and will promote peace and progress.
The guest lecturer, former President General of the Ohanaeze Ndigbo, John Nwodo, affirms that restructuring remains the best solution to Nigeria's myriad of challenges.
Our youths are angry, justifiably so, and pass a vote of no confidence on us, their fathers. Day after day, the likes of Iwanya will negotiate with them, pacify them, and plead for their patience for Nigeria to be restructured, or an Igbo president to emerge, so that our problems can have a listening ear.
For the guest speaker, Governor Hope Uzodinma, the Igbo must reclaim their rightful place in Nigeria by leveraging on their geographical spread and talents.
As we ponder on the Igbo question, let me make it clear. We should take opportunities of the vast space called Nigeria, given our geographical spread, to unleash our God-given talents for the attainment of our goals.
The celebrant, Chief Emmanuel Nwayawu, says the lecture reflects the nation's present realities, especially the perceived marginalization of the Igbo nation.
When a young man is told that because he's an Igbo man, that he can never be voted in the country, I think it's unfair. That is why I think this lecture of John Nwodo delivered today will be the beginning of many discourse.
The event, organized by the Imo State Correspondence Chapel of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, was aimed at x-raying some issues affecting the nation and how best to tackle the challenges.
Outside the shores of Nigeria, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has applauded the relations between the country and the United States, which he says has improved over the years. Professor Osinbajo made the comments during his meeting with the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris at the White House, where he commended the United States for its support for Nigeria's developmental efforts. Vice President Harris, on her part, thanked Professor Osinbajo for his visit and praised his efforts in driving the climate change discourse and the country's energy transition plan. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo is in Washington, D.C. to seek partnerships and support for the recently launched energy transition plan in Nigeria.
My visit is an opportunity to reaffirm the close ties that exist between our countries. The United States has been a long-standing partner and friend of Nigeria, and even as long ago as independence, the United States has been a very firm supporter of all of our aspirations, especially our economic and social development ambitions. The United States has always been with us. We also must appreciate the firm support that we've received from the U.S., especially in our fight against terrorism within our borders and in the Sahel. And, of course, the very timely donation of vaccines, 4 million vaccines, as we battled the COVID-19 pandemic. And that, of course, is extremely useful. But in addition to, as we pointed out, our shared commitment to democracy and the international rules-based system, we very strongly believe that, in the coming years we will need to work together again on so many global challenges, and they are as varied and and they come up very frequently now, from promoting peace and security to tackling global health issues and climate change, and of course economic adversity.
There is a strong relationship between the United States and Nigeria. As I was explaining to the Vice President, there are hundreds of thousands of Nigerian Americans and Nigerians here in the United States, and so many who have made significant contributions to the United States, be it as entrepreneurs, as innovators, to film and music. And Nigeria, without any question, is leading on so many important issues, and some of the most important issues of our time. When we look at the issue of the climate crisis, Mr. Vice President, you have been an extraordinary leader on this issue, and I know this is something that you feel very strongly about, and you've been very adamant about the role Nigeria can play in addressing this crisis that faces us all. And I congratulate you, for example, on your energy transition plan.
Thank you.
Which I know pledges carbon neutral energy by 2060. Ambitious goals, but important goals. And under your leadership, I have no question that they will be achieved.
Since the news about the 4 billion naira pipeline surveillance contract awarded to ex-militant leader Government Ekpemopolo, also known as Tom Polo, broke, many have expressed divergent responses on the matter. While some have praised the initiative, others expressed doubt about whether the move will curb the menace of oil theft in the region. To address the concerns of critical stakeholders, traditional rulers, former militant leaders and other stakeholders from Bayelsa, Delta and River States have met in Delta State, where they vowed to ensure that illegal oil activities are brought to a halt in the region.
On August 8th this year, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva, led a delegation on a courtesy visit to the government house in Asaba, Delta State, where he bemoaned the high level of oil theft in the country, describing it as a threat to the nation's economy. Not long after the engagement, which also took place in Bayelsa and Imo states, the news of 4 billion naira pipeline surveillance contract awarded to ex-militant government Ekpemopolo, also known as Tom Polo, filtered in, with some describing the development as the right way to go. With the need to carry leaders in the Niger Delta region along in the latest endeavor, Mr. Ekpemopolo is engaging critical stakeholders at his hometown in Oporoza to address their concerns.
This surveillance job is just a stopgap. It is not what we are actually clamoring for in the Niger Delta region. We have been clamoring for resource control. If the resources are not there for us to control, what can we achieve? Nothing. The current state now, we cannot even talk about resource control, because the environment has been seriously degraded. Our economy is, in a very bad shape. So, let us bring it back to a state that we're able to now agitate for more things to come to the Niger Delta region.
According to some of the stakeholders here, contrary to reported agitations from some other militant groups, the development is welcome as long as everyone is carried along.
What he has done and what he's still doing is to engage the people, those who are from the people from the region, village by village, clan by clan, community by community, by sensitizing them. And so those even aggrieved is to hear them out.
Traditional rulers from the region are also part of the engagement process, with a consultative meeting at the Palace of the King of Baramatu Kingdom. At the end of the meeting, Mr. Ekpemopolo hints at possible operations against ongoing illegal oil activities, maintaining that the business of pipeline surveillance is an all-inclusive one.
I want to say I am the only contractor, so I want to work with only Paul, maybe my CSO and General Super, you know, it will not go down well with a lot of people. So you need to spread and give whatever is due to even the women, even the old men. Then you will have peace.
For the Delta State government, the way to go is to encourage the locals to take part in the policing of the region's oil and gas infrastructure.
On account of what they suffer due to oil exploration and exploitation, there is a need to carry them along. Anywhere in the world, that is what you do. And before that made us, or informed our decision to continue to advocate that there is a need to get the locals involved in the policing of these installations. And good enough, for a very long time, the federal government ignored us and our plea. But when they started seeing that it was now beginning to affect the revenue of the country, it became necessary for them to do what is right.
Pipeline vandalism, crude oil theft and bunkering have had a devastating impact on the nation's revenue. However, it remains to be seen whether the latest step taken by government will finally put an end to the menace.
Away from the Niger Delta, a tanker laden with about 45,000 litres of premium motor spirit crashed and went up in flames earlier today in Lambe community before local government area of Ogun State. That's a border community with Lagos State. No casualties were recorded in the incident, but emergency officials say about 10 buildings were destroyed. According to them, a major disaster was averted because the tanker spilled most of its contents into the canal close to the scene of the accident, saving the community from what could have been a huge tragedy. The fire has already been put out by men of the Ogun State Fire Service. Work has begun to fix 3 expansion joints on the Ibadan-bound lane of the Kara Bridge along the Berger-Opik corridor of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. The repairs are being carried out to prevent accidents and damage to vehicles. Meanwhile, the FRSC is working with the Lagos State Traffic Management Agency and its Ogun State counterpart to ease commuting.
The contractor handling the reconstruction of the Berger-Opik axis of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is on ground bright and early to carry out emergency repair works on 3 expansion joints of the Kara Bridge outbound Lagos. First, the barricades are put in place to prevent obstruction or accidents. The repairs are being done in addition to the ongoing reconstruction of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, which extends from Alausa, Berger-Opik through Mowe. As expected, there's traffic buildup, a situation for which officials say they're well prepared.
We are tending towards kilometer 0 now, towards Lagos end. And normally, what we envisage is what is actually happening. Because when there's road construction and you are tending towards built-up areas and township, where you have more traffic volume, you know that there will be more convenience that is attached to it. That is exactly what we are witnessing, and we are up to the task.
An alternative route that could solve some of the traffic congestion lies under the Kara Bridge, but the access road is in a deplorable state that needs government's attention. Motorists who ply the expressway regularly share their concerns on how the roadwork is affecting everyday life.
A lot of havoc happening in these joints, and I don't know the kind of job they are doing really. Had it been in those days, which beggar used to be beggar? I mean, when they give them a job to do, within a trickle of an eye, they will do it very, very strong, and within a trickle of an eye, they will finish it. But this time around, I don't know what is happening.
My advice to the government is that they should try to consider the masses when they are constructing the route. What they are doing is good, but at the same time, they should consider the masses and this time of security threat.
In the meantime, the Federal Road Safety Corps Commander in charge of Lagos State once again asks road users to obey traffic rules.
This other portion that is left, let us just hold ourselves a little and see how much we can give cooperation to the traffic management team so that it will be easier for us. Because Julius Berger is not actually the problem. The construction of the road is not the problem. But the road users, the deviants, the recalcitrant ones that are going against the rule, going against the traffic, are the ones that are really creating the problems.
Motorists traveling along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway are appealing to the federal government to speed up the construction work to reduce the hardship being experienced while commuting on this major route.
To Health Matters, members of the House of Representatives Committee on Health Institutions say they are initiating a bill that will address the issue of medical brain drain in the country. The committee members made the disclosure during their visits to the Federal Medical Center, Asaba, for an oversight function. The visit also presented an opportunity for the hospital management to seek solutions to the various challenges faced by the hospital.
Members of the House of Representatives Committee on Health on an oversight function at the Federal Medical Center, Asaba. After the inspection, the management of the FMC briefs the committee members on the issues affecting daily operations at the hospital, particularly shortage of staff caused by brain drain.
As at date, we have trained no less than 30 medical officers to be consultants in this hospital. Train them with federal government money. You pay their salary, you pay their update fees, you pay their exam fees. So we train them. Even the neurosurgeons I talked about, the hospital trained them for 8 years. We're paying their salaries, we're paying their exam fees. And today they have qualified and they're here with us. It's only painful that quite a number of these people that have been trained are not leaving the country because of the situation of the country. Imagine 6 years, 7 years investment in somebody and he wakes up and he leaves. All that investment, the nation loses it. All of that investment is lost by the nation.
To address the menace, Chairman of the committee, Dr. Pascal Obi, says plans are underway to introduce and pass a bill that will control medical brain drain in the nation.
People should start at least showing some level of sensitivity or patriotism to the country that is spending money to make you consultant. So they must be bonded henceforth as soon as this bill is out. So we must make sure that that issue is handled. We must make sure that that bill is passed. And then I'm sure that as soon as it is passed, it must get presidential assent.
Anywhere we go, University of Port Harcourt, the problem is power. Everywhere in the country, the problem is power. So you just have to look for a way of trying to handle that.
According to the Nigerian Medical Association, Nigeria has a deficit of about 300,000 medical doctors to cater to the health needs of its 200 million people. With a ratio of 1 doctor to 5,000 patients, Nigeria falls short of the World Health Organization's recommended standard of 1 doctor to 600 patients. If this proposed bill scales through, it may proffer possible solutions to the health challenge associated with manpower at the various health institutions across the country.
Still talking health, herbal medicine is fast becoming an accepted alternative to Western medication in Nigeria. But there is a need for more awareness of the dosages and side effects of these medications on the body. This next report examines the health implications of consuming traditional medicine as Nigeria joins the rest of the world to celebrate International African Traditional Medicine Day. Our correspondent, Kayla Megwa, tells us more.
The Miriam Babangida Hall at the Women Development Center in Abuja is playing host to African traditional medicine practitioners from all across Nigeria. They're celebrating 20 years of practicing traditional medicine in the country. Drugs which they claim cure illnesses ranging from malaria to diabetes and ulcer are on display at this exhibition. And the practitioners tell us that the days when herbal medicine was handled primitively without NAFDAC approval are behind us.
Right now, innovation and science are being fused into herbal medicine. So most of the practitioners, including me, our products are well analyzed, research and analyzed, and even most of the institutions like my own is done in University of Benin.
There should be an equivalent of NAFDAC that is geared toward traditional medicine only. There should be equivalent of hospital management board that will regulate those practices only. Just like in India and China, it does not in any way prevent people who want orthodox medicine to go there and then have them patronized.
every medication must go through NAFDAC certification before it is allowed for consumption by the Nigerian public. However, there have been cases where the specimen provided by the herbal medicine practitioner is different from those put out for Nigerians to buy. The Director General of NAFDAC explains how this can be checked.
I don't know how many people have died. How many people have started having kidney problems? When the kidney cannot handle substances, those substances that are retained in the kidney start damaging the kidney because they cannot be filtered out. This is what we need, especially the media and all the citizens that are listening. We need you to please call us.
Meanwhile, herbal mixtures have gradually become commonplace in the Nigerian society, and many people prefer them to Western medicine.
Like moringa, bitter leaf, and scent leaf. If I have symptoms like malaria or BP, something like that, I will go and boil it. I remember since 2019, I've never go to hospital to say they take all this shock where they give us.
If I am preventing malaria, I take traditional medicine. But if I'm already down with malaria, I take orthodox medicine. So they play different purposes.
For example, let's say pile. Like me now, I take bitter leaf and scent leaf, the osimum. So, and the combination works well on me.
Despite its acceptance, there are still many questions about its dosage and what side effects it may have on vital organs.
Like the herbs that they are using, what is the dosage? What is the, if any preparation that you make, what is the time frame? What is the date of production? What is the expiry date? All of this research needs to be done for us to get the best of those traditions, of those herbal medicine. It's not all about having one, put one or two leaves together and grind them or put it there and be taking it with, you know a start date, you don't know the date it will end, and you don't expect to be consuming all of that.
Traditional complementary and alternative medicine, or herbal mixtures, as some may choose to call it, has come to stay in Nigeria for a plethora of reasons, ranging from traditional beliefs to religious beliefs, from cost implications to quicker efficacy of these medications. Therefore, safety in dispensing it must become paramount, and proper funding for research to ensure proper use should drive actions of government in the alternative medicine sector. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
In Edo State, the government says it will commence the disarticulation of its schools starting from the next academic year, scheduled to resume on September the 12th, 2022. The governor of Edo State, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, announced this as the state's education flagship program, Edo Best 2.0, went live during a ceremony which held at the New Era College in Benin City, the Edo State capital.
The latest version of the Edo Basic Education Sector Transformation, Edo Best 2.0, is ready for takeoff. The roll call for the event includes Governor Godwin Obaseki and his entourage, 1,500 teachers and 300 schools principals who have concluded training on the new educational system. The Edo Best program is designed to improve learning in basic education using technology-based methods. The state government says the Edo Best 2.0 is a sequel to the first version, which was a huge success.
We now have a new scheme of work. We have a standardized timetable so that whatever is taught in Benin, it's what is being taught at Okona, it's what is being taught at Tupiaja, and it's what is being taught in Ajoki, Nikoroga, in all the riverine and remote communities in Edo State.
As if to buttress the point, some special students show the audience some of the skills learned from Edo Best.
Today, I look forward to hearing about opportunities Mr. Governor will give to us, to learners like me.
One of the key features of the Edo Best 2.0 is a departure from the conventional 6334 educational system in place. Governor Obaseki explains that the new 1934 system offers the best education for the future generation.
We'll have 1 year of pre-primary education for every child. And that basic education will now be 6 years of primary school and 3 years of junior school. That is what the law says. When you finish your first 10 years of education, you now decide, am I going to secondary school or am I going to technical school? That is the law.
The event featured the launch of the UNICEF Learning Passport program in the state.
Edo is in progress.
The state government also redeemed its pledge of house gifts to 2 teachers for their outstanding performances.
Congratulations!
Meanwhile, 8 years after the introduction of the Safe School Initiative, several schools in parts of northeastern Nigeria are still closed. The Safe School Initiative is premised on the need to protect the right to learn in Nigeria, especially in insurgency-impacted states such as Borno, Adamawa and Yobe. This next report looks at the status of the initiative 8 years after it was introduced.
The Safe Schools Initiative was launched at the World Economic Forum in Abuja by a coalition of Nigerian business leaders working with the UN Special Envoy for Global Education, Gordon Brown. 8 years after the launch of the initiative, where over $20 million was raised, little has been done to push for the realization of the goals of the initiative, including a plan to raise $100 million. Many schools in Borno, Adamawa and Yobe states came under heavy attacks 10 years ago by insurgents, causing destruction of many schools and abduction of students in the region. The increase in the number of attacks during the period made the government come up with a Safe School Initiative. It is aimed at making schools safer for children in the troubled areas and ultimately reducing the number of out-of-school children in the country. 5 years after the introduction, President Muhammadu Buhari formally gazetted the initiative on December 31, 2019. However, 3 years down the line, not much has been achieved under the initiative. However, the federal government recently announced a new plan to develop a national policy for the financing of safe schools by the end of the third quarter of 2022.
We, at the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, established a committee with members drawn from the relevant ministries, departments and agencies, including Federal Ministry of Education, the military and other security agencies. The committee has been working assiduously to collect inputs from relevant MDAs and to develop a national plan for financing safe schools.
At a recent meeting, some principals of schools affected by insecurity in the Northeast region explain how the situation is affecting learning in the region.
We have students that are far away, that cannot tread or ride bicycle to the school, and they are afraid of the road, so they abscond themselves, they stay at home. Especially the girls, we are finding that we need girl child education, but now the girls are at home.
Recent data from UNICEF shows that between 2020 and 2021, 25 schools were attacked in northwest Nigeria, while 1,470 learners were abducted along with 24 school personnel working in the northwest alone. The report also reveals that 51 schools were also attacked in the northeast, with 64 schools targeted with suicide bombings. These attacks disrupted the education of more than 5 million children in the northeast and northwest.
This is the time to stand up and be counted. This is the time when children who are trying to go to school every day are unable to, either because they've been kidnapped or it's unsafe, or as is the case now in FCT, the schools have been closed.
The number of out-of-school children continues to rise in Nigeria as insecurity threatens the centers of learning across the country. Hopefully, when the funds for the initiative are made available next quarter, the issue may be resolved.
Business News is up next with Anne Waldo. Over to you.
Thank you, Ayo. Well, let's begin business news with Nigeria's forex reserves, which has recorded a sustained uptrend for 3 consecutive weeks as it increased by $68.23 million week on week to $39.02 billion as at August the 31st. The rise in the country's external buffer, which comes amid fluctuations in oil prices on the international market, and Nigeria's low oil production level, is largely attributed to inflow of foreign exchange. Before now, Nigeria's external reserves was on a downtrend due to the Central Bank of Nigeria's continued intervention in the forex market as it supplied more dollars in order to stabilize the naira. Meanwhile, some analysts believe that flexibility in the exchange rate will be significant in attracting foreign inflows back to the market. Trading activity at the forex market was mixed this week as the total turnover of transactions carried out at the FX sports, forwards and future markets rose by 10.11% to about $1 billion as at September the 2nd. A further breakdown of trading results shows that total value of transactions at the FX spot market, which is the I and E window, rose by 15.95% to $704.5 million, while transactions at the FX derivatives market fell by 1.15% to $311.6 million. Also, the value of the local currency by 0.15% to 428 naira 44 kobo against the dollar at the NAFEX window at the forex markets, in contrast to 427 naira 81 kobo that was recorded last week. Let's head to the domestic equities market now, where stocks opened the week on a negative note. Bargain hunting activities in the latter part of the week pushed the all-share index above 50,000 level. As it rose by 0.63%, investors' interest in Guinness, Stanbic, Access Holdings, Lafarge, Boa Foods and Boa Cement all drove the positive performance for the week. The MTD return is now back to positive territory at 0.4%, while the year-to-date return increased to 17.2%. Activity levels were mixed. Trading volume increased by 30.7% week on week, while trading value declined by 15.3% week on week. For sectoral performance, it was bullish as all key indexes recorded gains. Vitafoam topped the gainers chart for the week, while Unilever Nigeria recorded the most significant loss. Financial services sector drove market volume and value this week, leading to top trades category. We have Sterling Bank, Fidelity and Access Holdings. Also, the NASDAQ OTC Securities Exchange Index closed the week positive. The securities index edged 0.16%. Volume of stocks traded rose sharply, but value fell by 19.17% to 114.33 million naira, and that's when you compare it to 178.5 million, which was traded last week. Niger Delta Exploration and Production PLC topped the gainers chart this week, followed closely by Afriland Properties, while 11 PLC led the underperforming stocks. City Trust Holdings and NASD PLC were among top 5 stocks traded by volume this week. Well, that's a wrap-up on business news for this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Ayo.
Many thanks, Anne. Let's join Victor Mathias, who's standing by for some sports news. Victor.
Indeed, Ayotunde, thank you and welcome to Sports News. Now, it was a game to forget for Nigeria's Super Falcons as they lost to world champions USA 4-0 in the first of the 2-legged international friendlies in Kansas City. The match is the first for the Falcons since finishing 4th at the Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Sophia Smith scored a brace for the home team with Lindsey Horan and Alex Morgan contributing to the win. The second match will be played in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, September the 6th. And Nigeria's Super Eagles B have failed to qualify for the 2023 African Nations Championship in Algeria after losing to Ghana 4-5 on penalties at the MKO Abiola Stadium in Abuja. Having lost the first leg 2-0, the Eagles struggled in front of goals until the 76th minute when Zulkifilu Mohammed put the home side in front before Chijoke Akuneto leveled the scoreline in the 94th minute to take the game into penalties. However, Ghana emerged victorious and booked a spot for the 7th edition of the championship. And in the English Premier League, Manchester City dropped points for the second time this season as Leon Bailey cancelled out Erling Haaland's opener to earn a 1-1 draw for Aston Villa. Chelsea came from behind to steal all 3 points against West Ham at Stamford Bridge. Kai Havertz's late goal sealed the win as Maxwell Cornet's late effort was disallowed. Brentford continued their bright start to the season, putting 5 past Leeds United, orchestrated by Ivan Toney, who scored a hat-trick. Harry Kane was on the score sheet as Tottenham beat Fulham 2-1. Super sub Jadon Anthony gifts Bournemouth all 3 points at Nottingham Forest. In other results, Wolverhampton Wanderers defeated Southampton by a lone goal, while the Merseyside derby at Goodison Park ended goalless. The game between Newcastle and Crystal Palace also recorded the same scoreline. A fighter indeed. But that's where we wrap it up on Sports News. Thank you so very much for watching. I'm Victor Matthias. It's back to IOTV.
Many thanks, Victor. The UN's IAEA team in Zaporizhzhia says the nuclear plant in Ukraine has lost its link to its remaining main power line. The plant is now said to be relying on a reserve line to supply power to Ukraine's Guild. Now, the news comes less than 48 hours after the UN established its presence at the plant amid growing safety concerns. The IAEA were told by senior Ukrainian staff that the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant's fourth operational 750 kilovolt power line was down. 3 others were lost earlier during conflict. But they said a 330 750 kV reserve line was delivering energy to the grid and could provide power to the plant if necessary. Medical charity Medicine Sans Frontières is warning of the risk of increase in diseases in Pakistan due to a lack of clean drinking water caused by the floods. The charity says access to drinking water is the biggest problem for those trying to find food and shelter. The government met earlier today to assess the scale of the floods, which have submerged a third of the country. At least 1 in 3 of the more than 1,200 people who have died are children. Thousands of Russians have paid tribute to Mikhail Gorbachev, the last Soviet leader who brought the Cold War to a peaceful end. Many lined up for hours to get a glimpse of his coffin in the historic House of Unions, where previous Soviet leaders lay in state, though he was not given a state funeral. President Vladimir Putin, who believes the end of the Soviet Union is the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the century, did not attend. But the Kremlin's official explanation is that he had a busy schedule today. And the main news again. Trouble today erupted in the African Democratic Congress following the suspension of its presidential candidate for the 2023 election, Dumebi Kachiku, over alleged anti-party activities. But in a swift reaction, the presidential flag bearer said the party chairman has no power to suspend him. Also today, the presidential candidates of the APC and PDP held strategic meetings with party stakeholders in Abuja, just as Labour Party members took to the streets of Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, to drum up support for their candidate, Peter Obi, ahead of the 2023 election. And former President of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, today denounced the politicization of ethnicity in the country. Dr. Jonathan, who spoke during a colloquium to celebrate the 80th birthday of elder statesman Chief Emmanuel Nwayawu in Owerri, the Imo State capital, also challenged citizens to take charge of their future. And that's the news at 10. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. From all of us here, it's good night and stay safe.